You stood in the doorway of your husband's study room, eyes scanning across the area. The desk was covered in a chaotic mix of papers, pens, and what looked like unopened mails. The shelves were stuffed with books, some of them rolled on the edge as if they might fall any second. Yin, this place really needs some attention. I can fix this. With some sense of purpose, you stepped out of the room and returned a few minutes later armed with cleaning supplies, a duster, cloths, and a small box for organizing. Rolling up your sleeves, you began the task, starting with the desk. You picked up each item carefully, dusting and wiping down the surface until it shined. The papers, however, made you confused. They looked important, but they were scattered everywhere. You frowned for a moment before deciding to stack them neatly in a file. Yin, I'm sure he'll notice the effort. I'll just make it more organized for him. Moving on, you opened the drawers and found more documents, pens, and a few small stickers. Carefully, you organized everything into compartments, humming softly to yourself as you worked. The chair didn't escape your attention either. You wiped down the leather, ensuring it looked as pristine as the rest of the desk. The shelves were next, and they proved to be the most time-consuming. You pulled each book down, dusting and arranging them by size and genre. A few times, you found yourself pausing to skim through a page or admire a particularly interesting title, but you quickly shook yourself back to focus. 2 hours later, you stepped back, taking in the transformation. The room now felt alive, clean, and inviting. You then muttered proudly to yourself, Yin, done. It looks so much better now. You gave the desk one final wipe for good measure before leaving the study with a satisfied smile. But your day wasn't over yet. Heading to the kitchen, you tied an apron around your waist, determined to try your hand at cooking something special. You scrolled through a few recipes on your phone before settling on something simple but hearty. The next couple of hours were filled with trial and error. You spilled flour on the counter, accidentally burned the first batch of onions, and even managed to crack an egg wrong. But you didn't give up. The kitchen smelled of effort, both the good and the bad. The evening was setting in fast, and you decided to prepare the bedroom for his arrival. Walking upstairs, you entered the master bathroom and began running a warm bath. You carefully adjusted the temperature, making sure it was just right for him to relax. You set out a fresh towel and even lit a small scented candle. Stepping back into the bedroom, you smoothed the bedspread, fluffed the pillows, and made sure everything was in its place. Jungkook stood outside the door, his broad shoulders sagging from the weight of the day's exhaustion. The endless meetings, relentless discussions, and constant moving between locations had drained every ounce of energy from him. His back ached, a dull pain that reminded him of how long he had been on his feet, and his legs screamed for rest. Yet, an unknown feeling, an undeniable excitement fluttered in his chest. The thought of seeing you, your smile, your warmth, gave him something to look forward to. A small, almost boyish smile crept onto his lips as he reached for the door. Instead of punching in the passcode, as he usually did, he rang the bell, just to hear your voice and see you greet him. Moments later, the door swung open, and there you were. Your bright smile instantly lifted the weight from his chest. Yin, welcome home. You stepped aside, holding the door open for him. For a moment, he didn't move. He simply tilted his head, his dark eyes scanning your face with a quiet intensity. He adored how you looked at him like you had been waiting all day just to see him. Stepping inside, he leaned down and pressed a gentle kiss to your forehead. The act was so tender that it left your cheeks tingling with warmth. Yin, come on, I've made food. Jungkook froze mid-step, his eyes widening as he processed your words. He turned to you, a mixture of surprise and joy lighting up his face. Jungkook, wait, really? You made dinner? Darling, you didn't have to. There was no hiding the excitement in his voice though. The idea of coming home to a warm meal prepared by you made his chest tighten in the best way. You smiled at his reaction, brushing off his concern. Yin, well, it's done now, so, come on. Jungkook chuckled softly, shaking his head as he slipped off his shoes. He followed you to the dining room, his steps slower than usual as fatigue tugged at his body. When he saw the dining table, he stopped in his tracks. A variety of dishes were spread across it. They weren't overly fancy, but they were comforting, wholesome, and made with care. He could see the effort you had put into every single plate, and it made him pause. His throat tightened as guilt began to creep into his chest. He knew how much he'd told you not to overwork yourself in the morning, to focus on resting and taking care of your own needs. Yet, here you were, going above and beyond for him. He sank into the chair you pulled out for him earlier, his eyes scanning the dishes with a mix of amazement and guilt. Jungkook, darling, did you really make all this? Aren't you tired? His voice carried genuine concern. You hesitated for a moment, his words making you second-guess your efforts. But then you straightened your back, determined to reassure him. Yin, you work so hard every day, Jungkook. The least I can do is take care of you when you come home. Your words hit him harder than you expected. He leaned back slightly, his brows furrowing as he studied your face. Jungkook, hey, it's not about that. I really appreciate it. But, Yin, come on, eat. You cut him off mid-sentence, making it clear you wouldn't take no for an answer. Jungkook sighed, shaking his head slightly in defeat as he pulled out the chair next to him. Jungkook, fine, but come here, sit beside me. Your eyes widened at his request. Hesitantly, you made your way to sit beside him, your steps slower than usual. Then, as you reached for the serving spoon to plate his food, Jungkook bent over, taking it, surprising you. You watched as he started plating the food, assuming he was serving himself, but then, he placed the plate in front of you with a small smile before sitting back down to plate his own. Yin, oh. You felt a shy smile creep onto your face. His thoughtful gesture wasn't something you were used to, and it warmed your heart in ways you hadn't expected. Jungkook, let's dig into this delicious meal, shall we? You nodded, grabbing your fork. Before you could take your first bite, a chuckle escaped your lips as Jungkook dove into his plate with eagerness. He was eating so fast, humming in delight with each bite. Yin, slow down. Jungkook, you're going to choke. He paused mid-bite, looking up at you with his mouth full of food. The sight made your heart skip a beat. His wide eyes and stuffed cheeks were adorable, almost childlike. Jungkook, this is so delicious, darling. I love this, and I love you. You blinked rapidly, your mind processing his words. But before you could respond, he leaned in and pressed a tight, slightly aggressive kiss to your cheek. Jungkook, ah, so good. Your mouth fell open in shock as your cheeks turned crimson. He was back to devouring his food like nothing had happened, completely unaware to how flustered you had become. You let out a small laugh, shaking your head. Watching him eat so eagerly filled you with pride. You had managed to bring him some joy after what must have been a long, stressful day. The room felt warm. Finally, you picked up your fork and started eating. The atmosphere light, and you couldn't help but steal glances at him as he happily cleared his plate. When the meal was over, Jungkook leaned back in his chair with a satisfied sigh. Jungkook, that was perfect. Thank you, darling. He got up and called for the maids, instructing them to clean up. You both were making your way to the bedroom when Jungkook's phone rang, stopping him in his tracks. You stood a few steps away, watching him as he answered the call on the spot. Jungkook, I'm home now, Lyo. I'm not doing anything. His tone was firm yet casual, as if dismissing any urgency on the other side of the call. You could hear faint murmurs from the phone, but Jungkook's sigh was louder, signaling his impatience. After a brief exchange, he ended the call and slipped the phone back into his pocket, looking slightly annoyed but composed. Jungkook, I'll just hurry and finish some work, okay? It won't take much time. His voice softened when he talked to you. You nodded, giving him a small reassuring smile, and watched as he turned and headed toward his study room. Left alone in the hallway, you stood there for a moment, a playful thought crossing your mind. You mimicked his earlier reaction, imagining how happy he might be when he saw the cleaned and organized room. Your lips curled into a small smile at the thought, heart fluttering slightly as you pictured him calling out to you, thanking you, maybe even kissing you again like before. Your daydream was interrupted when his voice echoed from the study room. Jungkook, Yin, your heart skipped a beat, the sound of his voice sending a rush of excitement through you. With a bright smile, you quickly made your way toward the study room. Jungkook's eyes widened as he froze in place, his gaze darting around the room. His study table, once an unorganized mess he understood, was completely rearranged. His jaw clenched as he stood there, processing the situation. He began shuffling through the drawers and shelves in hurry, his frustration bubbling up. Jungkook, where is it? He muttered under his breath, rifling through the stacks of papers and files. The frustration on his face deepened when he couldn't find what he was looking for. You stepped into the room hesitantly, hearing the muffled voice. Yin, you called me, you asked, your voice soft, but the sight before you made your heart drop. His forehead was creased with a frown, and his movements were tense as he continued searching. Jungkook, hey. Did anyone come into my study room to clean this? His voice was sharp with frustration. Though he wasn't yelling, he wasn't looking at you, his focus solely on the file he was looking for. You swallowed hard, watching as he moved to another stack of files, visibly struggling to locate what he needed. A shiver ran down your spine as guilt settled in. You remained silent, your hands clasped nervously. Suddenly, Jungkook stopped searching. He leaned back slightly, rolling his head to crack his head. His gaze softened the moment his eyes met yours, his earlier frustration melting away. Jungkook, do you know who did this? His tone was gentler now. As he talked, you bit your lip, lowering your head, unable to meet his gaze. Fiddling with your fingers, you mumbled an answer. Yin, I'm sorry. I did this. Your voice was barely above a whisper, and your shoulders tensed as you awaited his reaction. Images of your parents' angry outbursts flashed through your mind, and you braced yourself for a similar response. But when you dared to glance up, you were met with the same soft eyes, not even a hint of anger in them. Your heart raced in confusion and relief. Jungkook, come here. His voice was calm, yet firm, as he gestured for you to step closer. Your feet felt heavy as you took slow, unsure steps toward him, your mind racing with thoughts of what he might say. You stood in front of his desk, feeling small under his steady gaze. Jungkook leaned back in his chair, his fingers interlocked as he studied your face. But your stomach churned when Jungkook gently patted his thigh, his gaze soft yet intense. Confused, you met his eyes, silently questioning his intention. He tilted his head, the faintest of smiles playing on his lips, and motioned again towards his lap. Your confusion faded, and your cheeks flushed as realization dawned. He wanted you to sit on him, biting your lip nervously. You took a hesitant step closer. With slow, unsure movements, you settled yourself lightly on the edge of his knee, your weight still balanced on your legs. The distance you maintained made Jungkook bite his inner cheek to suppress a laugh. Your shyness only excited him more. Without warning, he slipped one arm under your thighs and the other around your waist, pulling you closer until you were seated snugly on his lap. Soft gasp escaped your lips as your arms instinctively wrapped around his shoulders for balance. The sudden closeness made your heartbeat quicken, and you gulped, unable to ignore the heat on your cheeks. Jungkook, now, tell me who told you to clean all this. His voice was calm but playful, his hand resting lightly on your waist as he looked at you with curious eyes. Yin, no one, you stammered. Jungkook, then, tell me, my pretty wifey, he said, his tone teasing. What was the need to clean it? Your lips parted, but you hesitated, unsure of how to explain yourself. Yin, I just thought I should because it was messy, and I wanted to be. You stopped yourself mid-sentence, realizing you were about to admit something you'd rather not say out loud, that you wanted to be useful to him. Clearing your throat awkwardly, you corrected yourself. Yin, I just don't like sitting idle, but I'm sorry, I messed up. Let me find the files you're looking for. You made a move to get up, but Jungkook's grip on your waist tightened slightly, holding you in place. He chuckled, his free hand absent-mindedly playing with a strand of your hair. Jungkook, do you love working that much? You nodded quickly, your eagerness making him smile. He tilted his head slightly, considering your response, and then spoke again. Jungkook, so, will you help me with something interesting? Your eyes lit up instantly, excitement shining on your face. The thought of being useful to him made your heart flutter. And what can be more best when he is asking himself? Jungkook chuckled softly, his eyes scanning your eager face as he admired how desperate you looked to help. The innocence in your expression was adorable, and he couldn't help but tease you a little more with his expressions. Jungkook, I'm working on a project, and I need you to design something. I heard you majored in it. Your brows furrowed in confusion, but you nodded slowly. Yin, don't you have a whole team for that? Jungkook shrugged casually, leaning back in his chair. Jungkook, who knows? I might end up liking your design more. So, will you work on it? You hesitated for a moment, weighing his words. He didn't seem to be joking, and the idea of contributing to something important for him gave you a small thrill. Finally, you nodded. Yin, okay, I'll do it. Jungkook's lips curled into a smile, and he leaned forward, pressing a soft kiss to your shoulder blade. Jungkook, good. I'll explain everything tomorrow, and you can use my laptop to start working on it. He paused mid-sentence as he noticed the way you were staring at him. Your eyes were fixated on his face, your gaze full of attention and warmth, as if he were the only person in the world who mattered. A sudden, unexpected shiver ran down his spine, and he fumbled for words. Jungkook, and I. Your constant gaze made his stomach flutter in a way he wasn't used to, but you broke the silence first. Yin, I get it, I'll help you. But I should also make up for what I did. Tell me which file you're looking for, and I'll find it for you. Jungkook shook his head, a gentle smile gracing his lips. He placed a reassuring hand on your thigh and spoke. Jungkook, no need, I'll take care of it. There was a brief pause before you spoke again, your voice quieter this time. Yin, and how's the deal going with my father? Jungkook's smile widened, and his hand gave your thigh a light squeeze. Jungkook, it's smooth for now, no issues. You sighed softly, relieved by his answer, and gave him a small nod. A comfortable silence settled between you both. But as it lingered, you started to feel restless. You thought about leaving since there wasn't much else for you to do. But the idea of getting up from his lap left a strange heaviness in your chest. You had grown comfortable there, and he hadn't asked you to leave either. Suddenly, you remembered something. You should at least reheat the water for him. Yin, okay, you finish your work and come to the bedroom earlier, okay? Before he could respond, you quickly got up and rushed out of the room, leaving him sitting there, blinking in confusion, soft blush creeping up his neck as your words replayed in his mind. Jungkook, come to the bedroom earlier. He gulped, his mind racing. Jungkook, did she mean? No, she's innocent. She probably didn't mean it like that. He bit his lip, trying to shake the thoughts that had crept into his head. For a moment, he debated abandoning his work entirely and following you, but he quickly pushed the idea aside. Taking a deep breath, he muttered to himself, Jungkook, focus, just find the files, wrap this up, and go. You stepped out of the washroom, your mind spinning with thoughts of Jungkook. The distress on his face when he couldn't find his files replayed in your head, and you sighed at your earlier actions. You had only wanted to help, but instead, you'd ended up causing trouble. Still, a warm feeling lingered in your chest. Despite the mess up, Jungkook hadn't scolded you. Instead, he had given you something to work on, keeping you busy and making you feel useful. Moments later, Jungkook stood outside the bedroom door. He felt drained from the work he'd rushed to complete, but smiled as he recalled how you'd asked him to come to the bedroom earlier. He removed his house slippers, checking his breath briefly before stepping inside. His gaze immediately landed on you sitting on the bed, and his heart softened at the sight. Jungkook smiled, his voice soft. Jungkook, hey, you looked up, returning his smile as you stood up. Yin, I warmed the water for you. Go take a bath. He frowned slightly, noting how you were once again doing something for him. Jungkook, Yin, baby, do you forget what I told you this morning? You shrugged, stepping closer and standing in front of him with an innocent expression. Yin, I'm just saving you time. His eyes widened as you gently took his arm, guiding him to sit on the edge of the bed. He looked up at you with a mix of amusement and confusion, his heart racing at how naturally you took charge. Yin, you're already tired, so I can help, right? Jungkook sighed, nodding weakly as he loosened his tie, but before he could remove it, your hands reached up, brushing against his chest as you pulled the tie free. His breath hitched, his heart thumping harder as he felt your soft touch. His voice came out quieter than he intended. Jungkook, you don't have to. But you weren't paying attention to his words. Instead, you carefully unbuttoned his suit jacket, sliding it off his shoulders as he watched you in silent awe. You were so focused, your brows slightly furrowed in concentration, and he couldn't help but feel a strange warmth in his chest. Yin, it's okay. I want to. Jungkook gulped, trying to distract himself from the closeness between the two of you. He bent down, his fingers brushing against his socks to pull them off, but he froze when he noticed you bending down as well. Without hesitation, your hands reached for his feet, your actions gentle yet purposeful. His breath hitched as his heart raced uncontrollably, and before you could proceed, he grabbed your hands tightly, startling you. You flinched at the sudden contact, your wide eyes meeting his. His grip was firm, but the look in his eyes was anything but harsh. It was filled with concern and disbelief. Jungkook, Yin, isn't this too much? Don't ever touch my feet again. You frowned, confusion clouding your face as you tried to make sense of his reaction. Yin, I'm just helping you, young. But he cut you off, shaking his head as he spoke again. Jungkook, I know, darling, but you don't need to do all this. What's wrong with you? Jungkook had already been suspicious about your behavior lately, and this moment made it clear to him that something was on your mind. Yin, I thought. You couldn't finish your sentence. He sighed again, his expression softening as he reached out to pull you onto his lap. The movement was swift yet careful, his arms wrapping securely around you as if to shield you from your own insecurities. One hand rested under your chin, gently lifting your face so your eyes met his. Jungkook, do you really feel like you need to do this? Tell me, Yin. His voice was gentle, but the seriousness in his tone made you squirm slightly in his hold. You hesitated before speaking, your voice barely above a whisper. Yin, why are you stopping me whenever I try to help you with little things? Am I not doing it right? Am I disappointing you? Tell me, Jungkook, am I not being a good wife? Your words hung heavy in the air, and for a moment, Jungkook looked like he had been struck. His mouth parted slightly, and his eyes widened in shock. He blinked a few times, trying to process what you had just said. After a moment, he closed his eyes, taking a deep breath as if steadying himself. When he opened them again, his gaze was filled with a mix of guilt and confusion. Jungkook, Yin, that's not what I think at all. And who told you that doing all this would make you a good wife? You fidgeted with the hem of your sleeves, your gaze fixed on your lap. Your voice trembled as the weight of your words hung in the air. The conflict inside you was unbearable. A mixture of your mother's pressure and Jungkook's constant denial of your efforts to help. You couldn't hold it in anymore. Yin, and my mom said this. The hesitation in your voice made Jungkook's heart tighten, his fingers curling into the fabric of your sleeve. He could feel your pain in each word you spoke, even though it was almost a whisper, buried beneath your vulnerability. His eyes softened, urging you to go on. Jungkook, what did she say, Yin? Your voice trembled as you finally met his gaze. It wasn't easy to admit the truth, but it was time. Yin, she said I should take care of you, that I should never say no to you, that you should always stay happy. If you stopped, words hanging like an unspoken question in the air. Jungkook's brow furrowed slightly, his body instinctively drawing closer, sensing that this wasn't the whole story, that there was more. Jungkook, if what, Yin? What else? He was gentle, almost pleading, his mind racing with thoughts of how he could have missed all of this. Yin, if I want the deal to happen with my father. Jungkook's chest tightened, and his grip on your hand faltered. He felt like the floor had been ripped from beneath him. The pressure of the situation was something he had never fully understood until now, and it made his heart ache for you. Jungkook's heart sank like a stone. A lump formed in his throat, and he could barely breathe as he tried to process your words. He gently cupped your cheek, his voice softer now. Jungkook, what else did she say, Yin? Tell me everything. You had tried so hard to be the perfect wife, but everything felt like a burden you couldn't bear. Yin, she beat me, Jungkook. She made me eat less, so I'd be perfect for you. She said I should keep you entertained, that I had to make sure you'd never be upset with me. Your voice cracked, and you couldn't continue. Jungkook's eyes widened in shock, and an overwhelming wave of guilt washed over him. How had he missed this? How had he allowed you to suffer like this because of him? Before you could say anything more, he pulled you into a tight embrace, wrapping his arms around you. Jungkook's chin rested gently on top of your head, his heart heavy with guilt as he felt your soft sobs against his chest. His hand moved slowly, tenderly brushing your hair, the back of your neck, soothing you as much as he could. His other arm tightened around you, keeping you as close as he could. You were fragile in his arms, and the way you clung to him, your fingers clutching at his shirt, made him feel even more protective. Jungkook, my love, I'm so sorry. His voice was a soft murmur, full of regret and pain. You buried your face deeper into his chest, your body shaking with each sob. You wanted to ask, wanted to understand, but all you could manage was a fragile, shaky whisper. Yin, why? Why are you sorry? Jungkook's heart clenched, and he leaned down, pressing a kiss to the top of your head as he whispered into your hair. Jungkook, I'm sorry I didn't notice earlier. I'm sorry you had to go through that alone. I'm sorry that your mother, she never should have treated you like that. You didn't deserve any of it. You stayed quiet, your breaths coming in uneven waves, still clinging to him, trying to find comfort in his warmth. Jungkook stroked your hair again, his fingers tender as they brushed over your skin, making sure you knew you were safe with him, that you didn't have to be afraid anymore. Jungkook, listen to me, Yin. All those thoughts she planted in your head, they don't belong to you anymore. You hear me? You don't need to be anything or do anything to prove your worth to me. Don't you dare think for a second that you have to be useful or perfect for me. He pulled back just enough to cup your face in his hands, his thumbs wiping away the tears that still streaked down your cheeks. His gaze was soft, desperate, as if to make sure you understood just how much he meant it. His heart ached seeing you like this, seeing the hurt that you had carried for so long. But now he was here. Jungkook, you are more than enough, Yin. More than enough. Your eyes searched his, and only you saw the depth of his feelings, the raw honesty in his gaze. Jungkook, I'm blessed, Yin. I'm lucky. I'm so damn lucky to have you by my side. I'm happy that you're here with me. I'm happy that I can make you feel safe, that I can give you comfort. But you need to know, you are enough, just the way you are. You closed your eyes, letting his words sink deep into your soul, feeling the warmth of his embrace. You looked up at him with wide, hopeful eyes, your hands still gripping the fabric of his shirt, not wanting to let go. Yin, but I love it when you praise me. I love it when you look at me and say thank you. It makes me feel special. Jungkook's heart softened at your words, a tender smile spreading across his face. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair. Jungkook, in that case, I'll say thank you to you every single time. Thank you for saying yes to marrying me. Thank you for just being here, for existing in my life. I have so many reasons to be grateful for you, Yin. So many reasons to praise you. But you don't need to put any pressure on yourself to earn that praise. You already have it, just by being you. You felt a rush of warmth spread through you, your face flushing deeply at his words. The fresh tears that had been threatening to fall slipped down your cheeks once again. But this time, they weren't from pain. They were from the overwhelming love and tenderness he was showing you. Without a second thought, Jungkook wiped them away with his thumb, his touch gentle and caring. Jungkook, promise me, Yin. Promise me that you won't let your mind get tangled up in your mother's pressure. You're not bound by any expectations, not mine, not hers. Wake up when you want to, work when you feel ready. There's no rush, no pressure, not from me. You nodded at his words, your heart swelling with emotions you couldn't quite put into words. He was making you feel so loved, so cherished, that you didn't know how to thank him properly. Instead, you leaned in hesitantly, placing a soft, quick peck on his lips. Yin, thank you. Jungkook closed his eyes, his lips curving into a warm smile. Jungkook, again please. Your face grew warm, a deep blush spreading across your cheeks. Shy, but unable to deny him, you leaned in again, brushing your lips against his for a second time. Jungkook, again. This time, his voice was lower, teasing, but filled with sincerity. Your hesitation melted away as you kissed him again, but this time, his hand slid to the back of your head, pulling you closer. The other hand rested tightly on your waist, pulling you close. You were about to pull back when he tilted his head slightly and deepened the kiss, his lips moving against yours in a way that made your breath catch. Your eyes widened in surprise, and your hand instinctively tapped his chest. You pulled back, your breaths uneven. Jungkook's expression shifted immediately, his eyes wide with concern as he backed away slightly. Jungkook, I am sorry. I shouldn't have. You shook your head, cutting him off with a soft smile, your voice gentle. Yin, I wasn't ready. Let's start again. Taking a deep breath to fill the air in your lungs, you leaned in again, this time more sure of yourself. You pressed your lips to his, lingering for a moment before feeling his lips curve into a smile against yours. Encouraged, you deepened the kiss, your tongue teasingly brushing against his. Jungkook hummed in satisfaction, his grip on your waist tightening as he pulled you even closer. Your hands slid up to his shoulders, holding onto him as the kiss grew more passionate. Without realizing it, your legs wrapped securely around him, leaning yourself on him. Each touch, each movement, sent shivers down your spine. It was as if the stress and tension you'd been carrying for so long were melting away with every kiss. A thought crossed your mind. You should have communicated with him earlier. This love, this understanding, was far more comforting than enduring everything alone. Suddenly, Jungkook shifted, his strong arms gently flipping you onto your back. A soft gasp escaped your lips as you found yourself pressed against the bed, his weight hovering over you just enough to make your heart race. His eyes searched yours, silently asking for permission. When you smiled and nodded, he leaned down, capturing your lips once more. The kiss was slow and deep, the sound of it filling the quiet room. Jungkook reached for your wrists, pinning them above your head as his lips moved to your jaw. His kisses were deliberate, slow, leaving trails of heat in their wake. Your body instinctively, giving him more access as his lips found the sensitive spot on your neck. A low hum escaped him, his hand slipping to the curve of your waist, his thumb stroking soothingly against your skin. Jungkook, you're beautiful. the most caring, selfless person I know." His voice was low, husky, and full of emotion. He pulled back slightly, his dark eyes meeting yours as his free hand brushed a strand of hair from your face. "Jungkook, from now on, you'll only listen to what I tell you, nothing else. Do you understand me, my love?" Your heart swelled at his words, a soft laugh bubbling out despite the heat in your cheeks. "Yin, yes, Jungkook, only you." His expression softened, and a grin tugged at his lips. He leaned down, peppering kisses all over your face, your forehead, cheeks, nose, and chin. You laughed, your giggles filling the room as his kisses grew playful. "Jungkook, I'll spend the rest of my life showing you how much I adore you. Yin, I love you." His words wrapped around your heart, and as he held you close, you felt it, a sense of peace you hadn't felt in a long time. Wrapped in his warmth, you knew you were finally home. The next day felt lighter, freer. For the first time, you felt no pressure weighing down your shoulders. You wandered through the house at your pace, taking in every corner. The warm sun beckoned you outside, so you headed to the garden. While you carefully caressed the flowers, your phone suddenly rang. Startled, you glanced at the screen, and a smile spread across your face when you saw Jungkook's name flashing. Without hesitation, you answered. "Yin, hello." His deep, comforting voice came through the line, instantly brightening your mood. "Jungkook, hello darling. How's your day going?" You bit your lip, glancing at the flowers you'd just finished watering. "Yin, good. I'm in the garden, taking care of the flowers." There was a soft chuckle from his end, and you could almost picture the way his lips curled into a smile. "Jungkook, that's great. Our flowers will look beautiful, just like you." His playful yet affectionate tone made your cheeks warm. You toyed with the petals of a rose, trying to suppress the blush spreading across your face. "Yin, stop it." His teasing laugh made your heart flutter, and before you could respond, he continued. "Jungkook, listen, I have a party to attend tonight, and I'd really love it if you could be ready by 6. I want you by my side there." "Yin, of course, I'll be ready. Wherever you go, I'll love to follow." There was a short pause after he chuckled, and then his warm voice came through again, softer this time. "Jungkook, thank you. I know you'll look stunning for me, as always." You smiled shyly. "Yin, I will, just for you." His laughter filled your ears, and you couldn't help but laugh along. "Jungkook, okay then, I'll see you tonight, my love." You both stepped into the elevator, your hands securely tucked in his as you ascended to the party floor. The soft hum of the elevator didn't distract you from the excitement bubbling inside. Your steps had a bounce to them, little jumps of joy escaping as you held onto his arm tightly. You turned to him with an eager smile, your eyes sparkling. "Yin, can you say it again?" This was the 10th time you'd asked. But Jungkook didn't seem the least bit annoyed. Instead, he grinned, his dark eyes filled with adoration as he leaned a little closer. "Jungkook, you want to hear it again? All right. My wife is the most beautiful woman in the world. You're so gorgeous. I can't take my eyes off you. This dress looks breathtaking on you, my love." You bit your lip, trying to hold back the giddy smile threatening to break through. "Yin, stop it. Jungkook, how many times are you going to say it?" His eyes widened in mock surprise at your playful reply, a chuckle escaping his lips. He stepped a little closer, his warm breath brushing against your cheek as he tilted his head. "Jungkook, as many times as my eyes land on you." Before you could respond, he leaned in, placing a lingering kiss on your lips. It wasn't rushed or overly passionate, just a tender, sweet moment that made your heart flutter. You felt his soft lips mold against yours and his tongue flicking your lower lip, stealing your breath for a second before he pulled back. His gaze locked onto yours. Your cheeks flushed a deep pink as you raised a hand to playfully slap his chest. "Yin, you're unbelievable." His laughter was low and rich, filling the small space of the elevator as his arms wrapped loosely around your waist, pulling you closer. "Jungkook, and you're irresistible." His eyes sparkled with mischief as he tucked a stray strand of hair behind your ear. "Jungkook, you know, if you keep blushing like that, I might have to cancel this party and take you home instead." Your eyes widened at his teasing tone, and you playfully pushed against his chest, trying to suppress the growing heat in your cheeks. "Yin, stop it. Jungkook." His chuckle grew louder as the elevator doors dinged open, and he held out his arm dramatically. "Jungkook, fine, let's go, my beautiful wife." Your grip tightening around his hand as he led you into the room. The party hall was beautifully decorated, filled with warm lights and subtle elegance that screamed perfection. Your eyes scanned the crowd. It wasn't overwhelming, just the right number of people, most of them likely Jungkook's office staff and important collaborators. For a moment, you felt at ease until your gaze landed on two familiar figures at the far end of the room. Your breath hitched. Your parents. They were laughing and chatting with some people. Panic settled in your chest as you instinctively pulled Jungkook back, halting his steps as he started to walk toward them. Young Jungkook, you didn't tell me they would be here. Your voice was shaky, your eyes darting nervously between him and the two people who'd caused you so much pain. Jungkook turned to you, his expression calm and composed. He reached out to cup your cheek gently, his thumb brushing against your skin in a reassuring gesture. Jungkook, I know, love, but trust me, nothing will happen. I'm here. You swallowed hard and nodded hesitantly, letting him guide you forward. Your parents noticed you almost immediately. A large, artificial smile spread across your mother's face as she approached, her arms outstretched for a hug. Mother, oh darling, it's so good to see you. You stiffened as she embraced you, the gesture feeling more performative than genuine. Your father, standing a few steps behind, offered a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Father, it's wonderful you're here early. His tone was overly cheerful, but you could sense the excitement in his voice. Now you knew exactly why they were here. The party was hosted to announce Jungkook's next collaboration, a deal that could bring unimaginable wealth to your family. It wasn't love that brought them here, it was greed. Jungkook, standing beside you, gave your father a faint smile that didn't betray his true feelings. Jungkook, of course, father-in-law, please, have a seat. He gestured toward the seating area, ensuring they were far enough not to hover around you unnecessarily. Then turning to you, he gently tugged your hand. Jungkook, come with me. He led you to a row of chairs near the podium, positioning you where you'd be close to him throughout the evening. As Jungkook excused himself to talk with few people which seemed important, your eyes tracked his every move. Eventually, he stepped up to the podium, tapping the microphone to gather the room's focus. Your heart thudded in your chest, knowing what was about to happen. Jungkook's gaze briefly flickered to yours before he began speaking, his voice calm yet authoritative, carrying the weight of someone who owned the room. Jungkook, good evening everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. This gathering isn't just a celebration. It's an opportunity to share our vision and strengthen the partnerships that define our success. But as his speech continued, you noticed the way his tone subtly shifted. It became sharper, more deliberate, as though he was about to make a statement that would ripple through the room. Jungkook, and now, the highlight of the evening, the announcement of our next collaboration. I am proud to say that the deal has been finalized with Lee Enterprises. Your eyes widened in shock. Lee Enterprises? That wasn't your father's company. Your mind raced as you processed his words, disbelief and confusion washing over you. Instinctively, you turned your head toward your parents, seeking their reaction. Your father's face was pale, his eyes wide with sheer disbelief. It was as if the floor beneath him had vanished, and he was struggling to keep his composure. For a fleeting moment, he looked around the room, as if hoping he had misheard. But the murmurs and applause from the guests confirmed what he dreaded. His lips parted, but no words came out. He looked utterly stunned, frozen in his spot, while your mother's smile faltered. Your sharp gaze caught your mother's reaction immediately as she turned to you, her eyes narrowing in anger and disbelief. You lowered your head, biting your lip to suppress the small, victorious smile tugging at the corners of your lips. For some reason, you felt like you had just won, like justice was being served without you even lifting a finger. Jungkook stepped down from the podium, his confident strides making it clear he was heading straight for you. Before he could reach you, an older man, whom you assumed to be Mr. Lee, approached him. They exchanged a brief conversation, Jungkook's polite nods and charming smile making him look professional. When he finally reached you, you stood up quickly, instinctively grabbing his hand. He winked at you playfully, his eyes twinkling as he was ready for what was about to come. Just then, your father hurried toward Jungkook, desperation etched across his face. Jungkook's son-in-law, I need to ask something. What happened? How did you change the plan? Lee Enterprises? What went wrong? His voice trembled as he searched Jungkook's face for an answer, his pride now entirely overshadowed by his fear of failure. Your mother, standing nearby, glared at you with piercing eyes, her expression unreadable yet filled with frustration. You tilted slightly toward Jungkook, pretending to brush some invisible dust off his shoulder, trying the best to ignore her. Your fingers tightened around his as he turned to your father with a calm, composed smile. "Jungkook, maybe we can discuss this some other time. Father-in-law, enjoy the party." Your father's jaw tightened, his fists clenching by his sides. The answer, or lack thereof, stung, but he had no choice but to step back. Your mother's frustration boiled over. She muttered under her breath, too low for anyone to hear, "This is all because of you." She stepped forward, reaching out to grab your arm. "May I have a private word with my daughter?" But Jungkook already had enough now. His hand gently yet firmly wrapped around her wrist, stopping her in her tracks, his polite smile barely masked with the sarcastic tone in his voice. "Jungkook, what could possibly be so private that it can't be discussed here?" Your mother was shocked, her words dying in her throat as she hesitated. Her gaze flickered between Jungkook's calm expression and your father. I just... Jungkook didn't let her finish. "Jungkook, you both can enjoy the party. We'll be leaving now." He bowed slightly, his demeanor respectful yet dismissive. Then, he gently guided you away, his hand securely holding yours. As you walked away, you could feel your father's eyes drilling into your back, the weight of his anger and disappointment pressing heavily in the air. His fists trembled by his sides, and his chest rose and fell rapidly as he struggled to control the emotions bubbling inside him. The weight of his failure was unbearable. His company had already been struggling to survive, and now, the one opportunity he had clung to so desperately, the deal with Jungkook, was gone, slipping through his fingers like sand. Your mother remained frozen in place, her face a mix of shock and frustration. Her sharp eyes darted between you and your father, searching for someone to blame. For a moment, her lips parted, but no words came out. Deep down, a flicker of regret surfaced in her mind, one she quickly tried to push away. She glanced at your father, taking in the redness of his face, his clenched fists, and his stiff posture. His humiliation was written all over him, and it was clear that he couldn't bear the shame of losing such a massive deal, especially in front of so many important people. For years, your mother had worked to control you, belittle you, and put you in your place. Yet now, standing there, she couldn't ignore the bitter irony of the situation. Despite all her efforts, she had failed. Not only had she lost her grip over you, but she also couldn't secure her family's future. The realization was like a punch to her guts. Jungkook pulled you through the sleek hallway. His steps hurried as he guided you toward one of the rooms. You laughed breathlessly, trying to keep up with his pace. But as the mischievous spark in your eyes matched his, you suddenly tugged him back. The sudden movement caused him to spin around, his lips crashing directly into yours. Jungkook let out a low chuckle against your lips. The kiss was unexpected, but Jungkook quickly took control. His hand slid to your waist, pulling you closer as he pressed you on him. The kiss deepened, his lips moving with a hunger that matched your own. You felt his body press into yours, but then in a sudden moment, you were pinned against the nearby wall by him. His hand slid to your waist, pulling you closer as he pressed you against the wall. The kiss grew more heated, his body towering over yours as he tilted your chin for better access. Your heart pounded as the moment became overwhelming. The way his body pressed into yours, the possessive grip on your waist, it was intoxicating. Neither of you cared about your surroundings, too lost in each other to think about anything else. His lips moved to your jawline, then your neck, leaving a trail of his desperate kisses that made you shiver with delight. You instinctively arched into him, your body reacting to every shift of his, the tension between you both palpable. Then it happened. The elevator near the hallway dinged, and the door slid open, and a group of Jungkook's employees stepped out, their voices trailing off when they saw the scene before them. Time seemed to slow. Your heart skipped a beat as your eyes widened in shock, realizing exactly how you must have looked in that moment, completely caught up in each other. "Oh, shut. We're so sorry," one of them gasped, their eyes immediately darting to the floor as they tried to pretend they hadn't just witnessed their boss in a very compromising position. "Sorry, sir," another employee said quickly, his voice faltering as he tried to backpedal and avoid making eye contact. "Oh my eyes," one of them muttered dramatically, shielding their face as if to erase the entire scene from their mind. It was obvious they were trying not to burst out laughing, yet their embarrassment was evident. They all stumbled, pushing each other as they hurriedly rushed back into the elevator, unknowingly pressing any button that would take them as far away from the scene as possible. You and Jungkook stood there for a moment, completely still. Jungkook's gaze met yours, a flicker of amusement in his eyes as you both just stared at each other, unsure of what just happened. But before you could fully process it, he leaned in again, capturing your lips with his in another heated kiss. His hands tightened around you as he lifted you effortlessly into the air, your legs instinctively wrapping around him in a koala-like hold. Your heart raced in excitement, and you felt the familiar heat spread through your body, as if what just happened doesn't really matter. He moved hurriedly towards the room, the sound of your breathless tones and his soft chuckles filling the air. Jungkook's grip on you tightened as his hand slid down to the backside, making you in surprise. The kiss deepened, your mouths moving in sync, both of you desperate and unable to pull away from the kiss. You heard him mutter under his breath, "Shit, I can't wait," and the words sent a shiver through your spine. He broke the kiss, his lips still brushing against yours as his eyes flickered down to the door. He fumbled for the key, his hands working quickly, but all you could focus on was the taste of him still lingering on your lips. You couldn't help yourself. You leaned in, kissing him again with a hunger that took over. Jungkook chuckled softly against your lips, amused at how you couldn't control yourself. "Jungkook, baby, let me open the door," he said between kisses, but you were too lost in the moment to listen. You pulled him closer, licking his lips hungrily, and he tilted his head, trying to focus on unlocking the door. With a soft click, the door finally gave way, and he stepped inside, still holding you close, your bodies pressed together. Your lips were still locked in a kiss that was just the beginning of what was to come. As the door closed behind you, all that mattered was the heat, the urgency, and the magnetic pull between you both.